Hey, welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process, we hear untold stories, and explore the minds of a lot of brilliant people behind some of the finest ambient music out there. My name is Mike Graff. I make music as Dear Gravity. Really glad to be here together with you. Today we have an incredible interview with none other than Cynthia Bernard, who makes music as Marine Eyes, but also is a wonderful photographer in her own right, and how photography influences her music and vice versa, exploring all the different lanes of how she creates and how she continues to, in her own words, cloud collect. Cynthia is a force not only in herself but also encouraging women in the ambient space and is doing a great job on that front. Before we do so, really glad you're here. If you haven't joined All Ambient on Discord yet, make sure you do so. Link is in the show notes. You do not want to miss out on that conversation. A lot of people connecting with each other, getting to answer each other's questions and build some cool community. It's a really great family that's growing there. But also, there's great conversations happening around the podcast topics, and you can even ask questions and give feedback for what you want to see happen in future episodes or who you want to see in future episodes. So please come join us. That'd be great. Also, make sure to stop by all-ambient.com. Of course, information on how you can license the music that you're hearing from any of these artists, which is a great resource for creators, for film and video, for all that. But also, there are some great things that we're going to be rolling out in the coming weeks, coming months, some new developments that, not to be an overpromise, underdeliver situation, but we're anticipating great things on how these can be valuable resources for a lot of people in a couple different camps. So I will stop teasing that at some point and they will just be a reality, but make sure to just be up to speed on all things at all-ambient.com and join All Ambient on Discord. But enough housekeeping. Let's get right into the conversation with Cynthia Bernard of Marine Eyes. Well, I am thrilled to be sitting here with a wonderful new friend in the interview seat, Cynthia Bernard of Marine Eyes. Welcome to the All Ambient podcast. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Just an absolute joy to have you. For those who may not be entirely familiar with you yet, I would love to give you 60 seconds to just kind of introduce yourself, what part of the world you're in, what projects you've got your hands on, and just catch us up to speed on all things Cynthia.
Wonderful. So I think what brings me here is one side of what I do, which is album art and also collaboration. Yeah. And so on a recent release with Antarctic Wastelands, I had the honor of doing both single art and album art for Worlds Collide. And then I also...
amazing. And it turned out really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I love using all sorts of light bending tools for my photography. So mainly with my album art, that's what kind of lends to it most of the time. But yeah, I also have my project Marine Eyes, which I started back in 2021. And I've been active with that since. And then before that, and still going with my husband, is Awakened Souls. And
amazing.
Yeah, so we still are doing that with different collaborations. And then I also run a newsletter that features women artists and ambient musicians primarily. And that's several times a month. Then I curate a monthly Women of Ambient mix series. I've done that for 4 years. And
I love it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you were familiar with that one, but
I'm like in the tertiary circle of the bullseye. I'm aware that it exists. I haven't spent a ton of time digging into the material, but now I have literally no excuse. So you've got a new subscriber for sure.
Yay!
So
well, and any time that you with all the labels associated, with you guys, I always am adding Anita or House Keys.
Absolutely.
All that. Yeah. So those are just some of the things I do.
Amazing. We get to dig into all of them in various ways, and it's going to be great. Remind me, I believe, are you coming to us from SoCal? Are you in Southern California?
Just a little north of Los Angeles. So we're still in Los Angeles County, but just a little bit of the deserty area north of that.
Wow. Yeah. Wonderful.
But still so close to get to everything in LA.
Yeah. This is ignorant of me because I'm unaware of the geography of all that. Did the fires affect your neighborhood directly? I'm sure it affected a ton of people that you know, and a ton of just the ripple effect is gigantic. But are you guys okay?
We're okay. Yes. There was one of the later fires, where we were close to evacuating, and
Yeah.
the kids had to leave school early and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
was, we packed our go bags
Mm.
but we never ended up having to leave. That one they were able to get a hold of more just because the winds weren't as strong as that first wave of fires, which was what made it
What a gift.
so hard to
Yeah.
handle. The winds were
Yeah.
just, it was like hurricane force winds. But yeah, a lot of people we
Yeah.
know and, members of the music community that got impacted, family
Hmm.
members,
Hmm.
a lot. It's going to take some time and we're just got to keep
Right.
helping in ways that we can. Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, just with your heart out there, I'm sure you're being part of the solution for sure. So that's a really cool thing. Love that. Well, man, Cynthia, let's go back to the beginning, if you don't mind. I would love, and usually I ask the question in the sense of how did you get started in music, like the idea of, when you started identifying that music was going to be a pretty big part of your life. But I would love for you to feel that maybe not just from the music angle, but from more of like art in general, especially with your photography and with all the focus and the expertise that you bring to everything you do in that angle. I just kind of love to hear the story of how you started creating and how it came to today. So have at it, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in such a musical family. You walk in my
Mm,
parents' house, the first thing you see is a wall of vinyl and CDs. That's the entire wall.
I
And
love
they're
it.
still
Yep.
so into physical media as well. And,
Yeah.
so from a very young age, I was going to concerts and was introduced to all types of music. My uncles both would always be playing guitar and singing at family parties. So
Mm,
I was around it quite a bit. And my dad plays piano. He's a little shy to say he does, but it is such a
sure.
huge part of him. It has been forever. I always just remember hearing him play in the morning and at night. And so for me, it just was something I was always around. And then I would say, like, music, for the music side of things, it's so funny that this is, with what I do now and where my beginnings are, it's pretty hilarious because the first song I wrote, I think I was about 8, and it was me sitting
Yeah.
underneath the front porch awning of my house watching the rain fall. And it was a song about how much I loved watching the rain. And, fast forward, I use a lot of rain sounds in my
Yeah.
music,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have songs, First Rain, and a lot of songs that are about that. And it's so, I think that that's pretty cool when I look back to that was just so part of me from the beginning was that connection with nature and
Yep.
music. And then when it comes to photography and art, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so I, would have like my little, you know, roll of film, and my mom would get them back and kind of go like, it's not really like a lot of pictures of people. It's kind of like plants or of like the ground.
Sure. Sure.
And, that's also the thread that's run through it because if I'm on a walk with
Yeah.
the kids now, they're like, where are you? And I duck down and I'm getting the
Right.
picture. So there's definitely threads that run through both of those.
Mm,
And I just, I would start these series like back in high school with photography of I'm going to get as many pictures of dewdrops as I can, or I'm
oh,
going to
that's cool.
do like, I would create like these themes of what the roll of film would be. I still like
Mm,
doing that because I think that it really brings you into the present moment, just opens your eyes a little wider to, looking
yeah.
for a certain color for the day, or,
Yeah.
just taking, a group of photos of reflections and puddles. I've been doing that lately with having more rain.
Mm,
And, so I still kind of do that thematic work. I also, then fast forward to college, I started taking a lot of pictures of textures and doors, just like
mm,
where, it might have been a wooden door, different color. And then I just really like
yeah.
the close up, kind of like the degrading nature of things. And that still fascinates me. I'm always stopping for textures. My
Love it.
husband and I even have a thing where we say texture, read all about it if I'm like really in texture mode. And it's just, he's so good with me,
It's pretty good. I like that. Yeah.
but he's so good with me on being patient of she'll just stop
Yeah.
whenever because I bring my camera
Yeah.
on daily neighborhood walks. It's just such a huge part of what I do. And then, that ties into the music too. It might be a
Of
photo that
course.
inspires the song. Then that also ties into writing. I like to write a lot of haikus, and I feel like that
Wow.
just tapping into that singular moment and bringing you back to that, it's what I aim
Yep.
for with a lot of my songs too. I think with every single
Yeah.
song I've done, I could go back and know where I was emotionally. obviously, if I'm using field recordings, what that came from. And it's usually wrapped up into what I was going through in that moment. So that's a little
Mm.
bit of some of where things started.
Man, I love it. Well, there's so much gold already right there. I love, man, Cynthia, I love how well maybe this isn't the best like word picture, but you seem to live with your antenna up. Like you're ready to receive any moment of inspiration, and you know, you've got your gear with you, you got your camera and all that. But that's definitely says something about you, and not only about, I mean, certainly, you know, there's a bit of that was like built into you, created in you to just to be tuned into that, but also like for you to develop the practice of leaning into it and saying yes to it and not squashing it and be like, oh, okay, well, we should probably just keep going because we got to get to dinner or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, like some excuse or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I suppose we should still be on time for stuff or whatever, but I appreciate your willingness to just continue to keep your antenna up for what inspires, and that's a really special thing. I think more often than not, and you know, maybe there are listeners who would be able to identify with this, is that there are times where I sometimes only put my antenna up when I am in the mood to do it, or when I'm like, okay, it's time to record, or okay, it's time to play this instrument or that. And yeah, there is in fact inspiration everywhere. And yeah, just thank you for
Really,
modeling that well.
there really is. And, you know, to just add on that, when I like to go back to me being little, I never have been bored in my entire life. I've never felt that. And my mom, you know, I would say that to my mom when I was little. I was just like, there's just always something to do, you know. I love to
Mm,
read. I love to, you know, just watch clouds. Like,
mhm.
so it's like that. And that's a question, that I always ask at the end of my newsletter, which is called Cloud Collecting, is, you
Mhm.
know, how do you cloud collect? Which to me is childlike wonder in your creativity. Like, how do you
That's great.
still connect to that? And that is really a bedrock of what I do, which is why
Mm,
I named a song that in the first place. That was where that name came from.
yeah.
And then, you know, felt like that was because I think everyone who is creative is tapping into that in some way. You are tapping into that. Like, you know, sure, we do want to be on time and all of that, but we're able to find those spaces in our life where we're just like playing, when we're just
Mm,
being.
mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think that's why a lot of us create ambient music, is to just be able to be in the moment and then
Yeah.
have that time where we're not rushing to the next thing, you know?
Yeah. Mic drop, Cynthia. Like that's the thanks for being here. All right, folks, we'll see you like that's gold. I mean, no, seriously. Love that we are starting off on a great foot. That is just incredible. And again, thank you for modeling that well and calling us all to a higher level, and that's huge. Let's collect
Well,
some
you know, you're
clouds. I
doing
love
that.
it.
You have kids and you're taking your
Yeah.
time to create, and,
Amen.
you know,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
sure when you're finished with your session, you come out feeling better. And, you know, it's just, I think it feeds into all parts of our life, you know,
Mm.
and then when you hear that somebody likes what you made, I mean, then you're like, wow, that's pretty
Oh,
cool.
well, with that in mind, tell me a little bit more about what like maybe it's a silly or a restraining question, but like, Cynthia, what does an average week kind of look like for you as a creator, as you know, with the music, with the photography? Again, maybe that's not even the best way to word it. Maybe that puts too much of a fence around it, as you are continuing to collect clouds and follow the muse and go for that. But what's the balance of freedom versus structure? Are you trying to get certain things done within a week? And of course, you know, and we talked a little bit before we started recording, you know, you have a lovely family, you know, with you and your husband James and your 5 kids, and my goodness, life is not slow in that sense by any means. So
No.
solidarity for sure. So with that, what does a day or a week, or I mean whatever slice of time you break it down to that makes sense to you, how do you create? What does that rhythm kind of look like for you?
It really, I would say it depends week to week, but I'm a planner, and, you know, often
Mm,
I
mm,
like creating a list of things that I want to do the day before, just so I
yeah.
have some clarity on that. And I feel like that's the most successful for me. And because I have a lot of different projects and things that I'm working on, you know, between making my monthly mix and working
Mm-hmm.
on the music that I'm working on, and obviously everything with family. My list will have a lot of different areas of my life on it. Within that, though, I need to have time where it's like, this is I'm not sure if you're familiar with the artist way, but I use a lot of those practices in my
Mm-hmm. Oh
creativity
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like, I need my artist date. I need my artist walk. I'm putting my cap on for that when I go out and do
Love
that.
that.
And that's
Yep.
where, that's that's very essential to everything. If I just feel
Mm-hmm.
like too robotic on some other tasks, then it's like, okay, it's time to just be. It's because that's really what
Yeah.
refuels me and keeps me able to do the grocery shopping and menu planning and driving people
Yep.
everywhere and all of
Everywhere.
that I do, and kids and activities and all that kind of things. Each day looks a bit different, but I do make sure that I take that time and fit that into each week. If a week goes by that I haven't, then I start feeling it a little bit more. But I also
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
writing a lot at night. My husband and I don't
Yeah.
watch TV. We watch
Yeah.
documentaries, mainly music documentaries sometimes. And by sometimes, I mean like a few times a year. But mainly what the two of us do at night is write music. And if that's
I love that.
together or separately, we have a few different stations where we can do that at home. And I also
So
love like,
cool.
just using my iPad and a looper with the
Yeah.
little guitar setup and then just capturing initial ideas and then transferring it over to the main hub. But it
Yeah.
really, that's a lot of things at night. And I love working in the mornings too. I'll make sure that I
Mm-hmm.
switch times of day. If I'm in album creation mode, that's just like all day. The eyeballs start twitching from too much computer use and all that. No, it
Yes,
has
ma'am.
happened a few times. I've gotten better at that. That was like when I first really started diving in. I did my first solo album and then an album with Zach, who runs Past Inside the Present, who I'm also a part of the team.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
part of
Yep.
the team
Yep.
there. I help out.
Love it.
And so me and him did a record together directly after I finished my first record. And
Whew,
then I
no
started
rest. Yeah.
feeling, James is like, I think you need to take a break. Let the eyeballs rest. They need rest
Yeah.
too. And so I have gotten better since then. But, I think that it's a lot of things are making sure that you have things written down. Like I will
Yeah.
tell that like to everybody that, it,
Yeah.
and if it works for you in your iPhone app or, notes or whatever, but I've always been a journal person. So I will have like little
Mm-hmm.
lists of things written down with my little checkbox. And then it keeps me on task. Even if it's like,
Yeah.
make sure you email back somebody that,
For
it's
sure.
like,
Yep.
it's easy to let things kind of fall for me without having things written down just because of,
Yeah.
active family life and
You're not
everything
alone.
too.
You're
Oh yeah.
good.
I don't really think anybody is like naturally designed to remember everything.
Sure. This is true. Yeah.
So yeah, write lists, people.
Mm.
Write lists.
100%. Absolutely. Man, okay. So if you are, you're collecting clouds and you do a great job of that, but also as a planner and as someone who really kind of divides out when you're going to take that time to be intentional. Like, what does the pipeline look like for you, or future releases? Like, is that the sort of thing for you, Cynthia, where are you dreaming long term and you've got kind of like, okay, here comes another album or another EP or a single or that sort of thing, or is it more of an organic process for you where you are just creating, and then as you are in motion you just kind of start realizing what you have in your hands and you're like, oh, okay, let's start to work on that. I know it can go both ways and every situation's a little different, but just kind of in a general sense, how does that situation work out for you and just what you're doing, and not just in music of course, but also with all the photography you're doing and all the art and all the way that all blends together?
When I'm in album mode, like
Yeah.
I know that I have the idea and the
Yep.
intention, and
Yep.
there might have been like a few week exploratory period initially, and then it's like the spark and the idea comes, and there, like I said earlier, there's definitely intention and everything that I do,
Mm-hmm.
where I just can't help that. And a lot of times, even like thinking of like vocal textures that I do, there's like secret
Mm.
encoded words in that a lot of times you just can't hear, but they're like, I
Really
can hear
cool.
them. And I think
Yep.
that inevitably that infuses it into the song. At least that's what I hope. But
Yeah.
So it might be like this few week exploratory period, and then I land on the idea when I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And then that's when things really
Hmm.
start to form. I think that that can be a little different depending on, Awakened Souls has had similar things with that. And then we've
Yeah.
done a lot of
Yeah.
collaborations. We do have it's actually a new project name coming out this summer. That's with my
Awesome.
husband and Kenneth James Gibson.
Mm,
He was in a band called Bell Gardens with Brian McBride from
mm.
Stars of the Lit.
No big deal.
Yeah, he's an incredible, and he has 20 different hats he's worn throughout
Yeah.
his
Yeah. Yeah.
decades of making music. But that's really exciting. And that one, once we started diving in, we were all in. And I think that
For
that's
sure.
that's for me with albums. For songs, it feels a little different. If it's a single,
Yeah.
I have this EP that I've been working on, which was just more of like, just songs for sleep.
Yeah.
And so that was less like maybe intense than a lot of other like
Mm-hmm.
album creation mode. It was just more like these are
Mm-hmm.
songs
Mm-hmm.
for me to relax with at night.
Mm.
So, but I still love that. I still think that there's intention in that. And then with photography, I would say it's more just kind of, I might have a theme, like especially like, when I have the project like with the Antarctic Wastelands, it was like, this is a theme and I love it and I'm going with it. And I want to get as many photos as I can surrounding this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, like I mentioned, like little, practices of just taking pictures of puddles or the ground or,
Mm.
something and having themes that run through it. And then that can often translate into song.
Yeah.
So,
Do you ever go the other direction where you're creating songs and then you kind of get an idea for a photography series, like the Dewdrop series or like the Puddle series from the, certainly it goes the other direction where
mhm.
you're finding, these incredible images and then you're creating the art for that. Does it ever go the other direction?
Well, it can, but mainly if it's from a field recording. Like, oh, well, this, I really need to go back to that stream and capture some video
Yeah.
or, get like some
Well,
new,
that's really cool. Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
revisit it if I
Yeah.
wasn't in that place before and I was just sitting and being and recording. But it definitely would feed back the other way too. Or like, what
Mm.
does this make me feel? What other landscape can I go to and then capture photos that might turn into the single art? Or
Yep.
so it does feed both ways. I haven't
Yeah.
thought of it like
That's
that
pretty
though.
special.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, and it's just sometimes for me, like just trying to approach it from it isn't unfamiliar territory by any means, but when you just kind of like twist, 3 or 5 degrees and you're like, I wonder if I come at it from here, like all of a sudden it can feel to the, to me, to the artist, like a whole breath of fresh air all of a sudden just fills you up. And sometimes, that's the difference between the next project being something that you deeply identify with. And you're like, I 100% put my stamp on this versus maybe something where like, and don't get me wrong, like we're maybe not always the best critics of our own art, but some, there is just that added bonus of like, I am really ecstatically proud of the journey of creating this and who I am now after having, put this out. And sometimes just that little perspective shift is a really cool thing. But honestly, like it goes both ways for me, Cynthia. Like I'm starting to think about how I can maybe be influenced by imagery and those sort of things in a very intentional way. I know I am subconsciously, but to actually like put that into practice,
Cool.
it's just a great place to be. So love that.
Do you
It's
like
great.
taking photos too?
I do. I'm such a rookie. I have enough gear and knowledge to be dangerous, but not nearly enough practice to consider myself anything above like intermediary. Yeah, it's my wife loves it. She was a photo minor in college, and she still
Very
to this
cool.
day just adores that whole angle of things. So yeah, it's we got plenty of lenses and bodies running around the house. It has been secondary and probably will continue to be secondary to the music, but maybe more complementary and should serve it a little bit more because you're a shining example of that. So love it. I've had you on in my studio through the whole day, just playing some lovely Marine Eyes stuff, and the collab you just did with Ben with Antarctic Wastelands remaining is lovely, and then just kind of digging through some of the the greatest hits, if you will, according to whatever streaming platform you're on, but Heart Held, I was just kind of sitting in that one and really just kind of enjoying it, and
Thank you.
and what a sweet thing. Tell me a little bit more about what's coming question. Do you have, and you, if you don't have details to share or that you feel are allowed to be shared yet, by no means, I don't want to put you on the spot, but tell me a little bit more about what you are excited about, Cynthia. What's coming up that is just propelling you as an artist and stuff that is just getting you excited for the next chapter?
Well, always something, there's just,
Indeed. Yep.
but yeah, with projects, I had mentioned the new thing with Kenneth James Gibson and my husband.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. It's actually a little bit more ambient country leaning. We had a pedal steel
Wow.
player
Yep.
that
Yep.
I got. Okay, this is something that I'm excited about. I learned that I have
Amazing.
an extreme love of stacking pedal steel. I had a whole bunch of raw pedal steel
Yeah.
files, and I loved
Let's
finding
go.
the sweet spots, stacking them, picking effects to go with it, and finding
Yep.
like the loop, that magic loop when you find the magic loop. And so that was something I'm
100%.
very lit up about. I would love to do that again. I just love that
That's
instrument. And
awesome.
so to be able to
Yeah.
work with those files, I'm excited
Yeah.
for everyone to hear that. And that's, yeah, so definitely lit up about that. Yeah, that will be coming out this summer. And
Can't wait to hear it.
yeah, and it's also an album art collaboration too between me and a collage artist, Michael Hentz, that I love. So yeah, a lot to be
Awesome.
excited on for that one.
Yeah.
I'll be sharing more on that soon. And then, like I
Oh.
mentioned, this sleep EP. Hey, you just had your sleep EP. We all have to do it.
Yes, it is a
Love
really
yours.
great place to live.
Yeah.
Thanks so
Yeah.
much. When we first were kind of connecting online and you mentioned Awakened Souls, your
Yeah.
moniker with James.
Yeah.
And I went on and I was like, man, I was listening to it and it was great, but there were still some vinyls around from the release. And I, without question, I was like, yep,
Oh, thank you so much.
that's coming to the collection. So it showed up quickly. It had a wonderful little past inside the present insert in the package.
I have my past inside the present Yeti cup. Thank you, Zach. This was
that's real deal.
This is my Christmas present. Got a shout out Zach for the branding. He's sent us a sweatshirt and that. I was like, this is gold. The kids cannot use that cup. This is mom's cup.
No.
This is mom's cup.
This one's sacred.
Yeah.
Sorry, kids.
Not for you.
Yeah.
So but so those are some things. And then just, excited about other James and I have a little trip we're gonna go on and bring our gear and have some special time together. And I'm sure that will be the beginnings of some new album or something as well for us.
Are you traveling? Oh, of course, living in California, you've got a boatload of beautiful places, right outside your doorstep and right within, driving distance. Are you traveling a little bit? You traveling a lot of it?
We're going to the Sequoias. So we'll just have like a little cabin and just on a river and just some quiet time. That's how we like to travel.
That sounds amazing.
Yes, just a few days of peace.
Yep, just hide away from and not that the everyday pace of life is a bad thing, but to find a respite is just a lovely thing to do. Yes, amazing. It's awesome. Well, man, Cynthia, I feel like we could keep going for a long time, and I'm so glad that we're connecting. I do want to honor your time for sure, but before we go, are you up for answering a couple of our all ambient lightning round questions? Would you be up for that? Amazing. So to define the lightning round, you do not have to answer in a short sentence, but I do want to hear the thing that just kind of pops right off your head. So no thinking, just lightning. Here we go. Cynthia, what are you geeking out about right now? Like some, maybe a new instrument or a new kind of what you were saying with like your loop setup with your iPad and guitar and all that, or something. It can be very not music related or photography related, but what are you geeking out about right now?
I think my resonator guitar with my pedals.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to get, I have a Recording King resonator.
Nice.
That I got recently, and pedals. Gosh, I have a lot of pedals. That's a lot of where
all of them.
Yeah, that's a lot of where my vocals come, like the differences and vocal textures and all that. I'm using just a ton of pedals. I'm a pedal head.
Which we have barely even, we should probably do another whole episode someday. If you'd be willing to come back, we would love to have you. But yeah, literally like your vocal chain is just bonkers. For listening, you get, seconds into any one of your releases and you're just kind of hit with this, incredible, I don't know why the word tapestry came to mind, but it just feels really ornate. It feels really,
thank you.
Just everything that you would want it to be. So
I have to credit my pedals for their help in that, because
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're feeding it good stuff
Thank you.
too.
Thank you.
Both and.
Yes, it is a collaborative thing for sure. And it's just they're my friends, So, but yeah,
Hey,
but
there
then
you
when you
go.
add the resonator with that, I've been geeking out. So that's a
That's really
fun one.
cool.
Yeah. And
I love
singing
that.
into the resonator and then
Oh yeah.
having that
Yep. Getting
create
picking
some
it up
ghost.
and holding it really. Yeah.
I love doing that.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Man, that if there's not footage of that somewhere that you might decide to share in a very candid way on social media someday, you should probably capture that.
James
That'd be really
he's
cool.
had some video of me doing that for sure. So
Okay, there
yeah.
you go. It will either do nothing and just blend in with the
Yeah.
woodwork, or it will be the sort of thing that's like,
Yeah,
whoa, what is she doing? That's so
I
cool.
lose 150 followers.
Hardly. If you, hey, I'll do my best to find 150 more for you. Just blame it on me. We're good. We're good. That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing on, lightning round. What is one weird thing about you that most people probably don't know? And we've covered a lot of turf, so I don't know if we got anything else to uncover, but please feel free to.
Weird thing.
Well, you just kind of an unexpected, little unusual, perhaps, something that very few people know about Cynthia.
Yeah, what is a weird? I mean, I am weird. I don't know if that's my weird thing, but I actually have, I have a lot of sides to me, but as my kids could say, I'm pretty goofy. So I have
You're
these
in good company, and you're in
weird
good company.
dance parties or, like weird voices that I'll sing. So but then I'm also really shy and on another side of me. So I do have, I have a lot of me's in here. And so that might be something that people don't know is that I, depending on where I'm at, I could be like super goofy or I might feel like, I guess maybe I'm as equally introverted as I am.
There you go.
So you never know what you're going to get every day.
In the best way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, what's coming? We're like,
no, not like that. But
like
last night we came home from grocery shopping and it was like, we were just being so silly, me and James, and Ashton was like, you guys, like, this is who's walking in the door right now, huh? And, it was
that's so great.
Yelling at our guinea pig. Actually, that's a weird thing. I hold my guinea pig and watch Tiny Desk and KEXP concerts. That might be a weird thing.
Awesome. You may have the most well-versed in the music scene guinea pig that exists on planet Earth.
He prefers electronic music, so.
That's got to be one of the best sentences I've heard all interview. What's the guinea pig's name?
We call him Thomas.
Thomas, the EDM nerd guinea pig.
Yeah, no, he's more like a Kiasmos guy, all right?
Well,
I mean, come on.
Me and yep.
You and the little fuzzy guy are, like-minded here.
For sure. That's so funny. Oh my goodness. I love that.
So yeah, I didn't anticipate that that's where the weird part would go, but I think that is a little weird. I don't think that many people hold their guinea pig and watch Tiny Desk and KEXP concerts.
Well, I think after this interview, more people are going to hold their guinea pigs and listen to Tiny Desk and all the fun stuff for sure. That's so good. Oh man. Okay. Well, final question for you. Thank you so much for your time, Cynthia.
Thank you so much.
For all the different lanes that you shine in and continue to create art and collect those clouds and all that, when somebody sees that and it really inspires them, is there any particular advice? And you've already given a boatload of it, so this might be a repeat of some of the gold that you've already dropped on all of us, but is there any particular advice that you would give to someone who maybe wants to follow a little bit in your footsteps?
Just listen to your inner voice, connect to your intuition, and don't be afraid to pause and not, you don't feel like you need to know the answers right away. Sometimes you need to live in questions for a little bit. And that could come with a label approaching you or with, an idea for a project, or there's so many different angles of where that could come from, but allow yourself the space to listen to you and what you want. And then let that be your guide.
Love that. Could not have ended it better. That's just perfect. And thank you not only for sharing that, but also, like I have probably said a couple times already, because I mean it, thank you for modeling that really well.
Thank you.
And that's just a very, very shining example. You are a great case study for just the effect of taking intentional choices like that, like listening to your inner self and being willing to live in that in between. And it's no easy thing. It takes intentionality, but thank you for doing it with grace and poise, and the stuff that comes out of it is just incredible. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Your art with the world, and thanks for sharing yourself and your time with me with the All Ambient podcast. It means the world. Thanks, Cynthia.
And thanks for all you do too. I'm so happy to be here, and I just love your music. So this is cool to finally, when you see someone that you've listened to, and the face-to-face is always a cool moment. So appreciate it.
It is. Say what? And that goes both ways for sure.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yay!
Thanks, Cynthia. Thanks again for joining us on the All Ambient podcast. This is about as shameless of a plug as it gets, but it really does help for those of you who are watching to give us a rating if you're on any podcast platform like Apple or Spotify or anything like that. On YouTube, we would love a follow, a subscribe, a like, all that fun stuff. And please leave a comment, a review, whatever is applicable to the right place that you're finding this. It really does go a long way. You don't have to make anything up by any means, but if there's some value in this podcast for you, we'd love to hear about it. We, as the All Ambient family, would love to meet you. I know it does my heart good, as well as everybody else who's involved at All Ambient. So please do so. Come back and join us next week. We got another great episode coming your way. And until then, here's hoping that this music and the hearts behind it make your day and your life that much better. Thanks.